And we are live.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Kaye here. Today, we're going to hear from Will Thompson from the Power BI team at Microsoft. He's going to be talking about Power BI announcements and events. You could also win some great prizes today. So all this and more now, starting now, on your Power BI community show. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Kaye, Community Engagement Lead for the Power BI product. How are you, everyone? Hope you're having a great day. Our team, if you haven't, if it's your first time joining us today, is led by Heather Newman as part of the Community Success team at Microsoft. And Heather manages the Power BI, Power Apps, Power Virtual Agents, Power Automate, and D365 communities. Today, we've got a lot of things lined up for you. So I'll be hosting the Power BI community show. Usually we're streamed live, but today we're pre-recording. And so because we're pre-recording, we're asking you to please go ahead and register at community.powerbi.com, or you can use the AKA link so you're able to comment on the show, and then we'll respond. And the reason why we want you to do that is so we can pick out somebody with some great comments and give some stuff away. And the AKA link, Daniel, is that AKA link, AKA PBI show comment?
You got it.
Video description below, right? And you can also check out past episodes on this show. We do stream live usually on the Power BI YouTube channel as well as the Power Platform YouTube channel. You can contact me on Twitter on at ms_KellyK. So with that, please know that the person that just jumped in was Daniel Zana. He's our fantastic producer. Our community managers, Heather Hernandez, Natalie and Eileen will be answering questions. And so every couple of weeks, we'll have a few short segments celebrating you, the community. Okay, well, with that, let's kick it off with the amazing Will Thompson from the Power BI community. And for those of you who are new to Power BI, Will Thompson is kind of Power BI royalty. And those of you who have used Power BI for a long time probably already know Will. So, Will, how are you? Are you there? Knock, knock.
Hello, yeah, I'm here. Hello.
Knock, knock. How are you? It's great to see you today.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks very much for inviting me along.
Well, thank you for taking the time, because we know you're a pretty big deal. Well, I think you are, because I learned Power BI from you and Amanda. Do you remember?
Yeah, a lot of people who I meet at events and stuff end up saying that's like, oh yeah, you're the guy from the Power BI videos.
Yeah.
There was one of the events I had on my name badge, you know, where you can put in like your title. I put the guy from the Power BI videos. Oh yeah, I know you. So you know, there was a course out on EDX that is that's still on YouTube. The visualizing and analyzing data of Power BI course. There's loads and loads of videos that we did back in the early days of the product. This is 5 years ago now, really, that we started it, even 6 years ago. And
almost seven.
Yeah, nearly 7 years. Well, I'm thinking about the I've got the Power BI thing behind you there, Kelly. That it must have been 5 years ago, but no, actually, yeah, of course, there was then a pandemic that happened, and that was
that's right.
What is time anymore?
And I love that that you thought of that, because we had the original T-shirts. You know, I've got the Power BI, and then for the 5th anniversary, it's Will was saying, why don't we just do 5 got the Power BI? I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. Will thought it was awesome. So that's why we have the 5 got the Power BI. That's not all Will Thompson's fault.
Oh, thanks. Not quite the creative genius. That was a spark of inspiration.
So tell us a little bit about yourself for those who don't know you and who are kind of new to Power BI. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I've been on the Power BI team since before it was Power BI, back when we were separate products, Power View, Power Pivot, those things. And I've been a program manager all that time. I've looked after a whole bunch of different things, from visuals to data modeling. I went and implemented Power BI internally for a little while, just to go and get an experience actually using the product. But more recently, I've kind of bounced around a few different areas, because I know, because I've been here a long time, I know a bunch of different things about a bunch of different parts of the product, and I know a bunch of different people on the product. So I'm very good at kind of connecting people. So I often go and just help out with random little projects here and there. The last 6 months or so, I've been working on something which is kind of the future of Power BI. I think some of the recent announcements at Build kind of hint into kind of where we're going, a little bit of it. But it's stuff that I can't talk about too much. But as well as that, I've been doing a lot of work around events and things recently. And that's kind of why I was coming on the show, because there's a few events and some really exciting announcements recently that I wanted to talk about.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. So a bit disappointed you can't talk about some of the stuff that's coming up, but that's okay. I totally understand. But so we'll be hearing about some shows and some information. So what's the first thing you wanted to share? Oh,
well, I think
I wanted your Twitter. That's what I wanted you to share first. What's your Twitter?
That's a great idea. Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter, Will_MI77. People always ask, what's MI77 about? Is it because you're a spy or something? No, nothing to do with that. When I was, I don't know, when I was 16 and I started playing games online, I took WILL and you turn each one upside down and it says MI, and then an L upside down is kind of a 7. That's where my handle came from anyway, and it's stuck ever since, however many years later. So yeah, you'll find me on _MI77. And I'm probably on Twitter a bit too much. I'm very online, but I love talking to people on there, and there's a great Power BI community on there. If you're not there already, it is a brilliant place to share and ask questions and learn. There's a Power BI community, there's a Power BI hashtag, and you'll get answers from all over the place, you know, from people who are new, finding the same problems. You'll get responses from the product team, from consultants who have been working with Power BI for years and years and years, who know it better than we do. Yeah, it's a really great place, and it's very welcoming as well. I think I love when I see new people who are just finding Power BI for the first time. There was a lady recently who came from like a legal background, and she just got into Power BI. She shared some reports that she'd been building, and everybody just piled on saying, wow, this is brilliant. Welcome to the community. It's really great to have you here. And yeah, it's really welcoming.
That's fantastic. You can also, you know, we see the same thing mostly on community.powerbi.com as well. You know, they can post, everyone can post all of their questions on the forums. And we do have some great super users, MVPs, and also the product team who answer some of those questions. And we do have a support team as well who do that. So if you've got any questions there and you want to connect with people, do both. Do Twitter and the community. It's fantastic. It's so welcoming.
The great thing about the community forum, I think, is that you can search over that history. Like Twitter searching and finding individual questions is kind of tough sometimes, but the community forum is brilliant. And I want to do a shout out to that support team, because the folks who are on there tracking questions, tracking the issues that people raise and feeding it back into the product team and the support team do a brilliant job. And they are so on the ball with getting those problems, particularly when people run into bugs, like filing bugs for the community and getting them fixed. It's brilliant to see. Yeah, kudos to those.
Yeah. They're fantastic. We actually met with them last night. They're not in the United States. They are a fantastic team. We just love them, and they're great Power BI engineers. So yeah,
super stuff.
Well, let's move on to what you wanted to share with us that you're not allowed to talk about, but no, you can't.
Now, so there's two things that I really thought it would be good to share about today. Two events. So the first one back in February. Was it February? No, it wasn't even February. It was only in April. What am I talking about? Back in February was when we started talking about it, but the event happened in April, and it was actually one that Gartner runs. So they're an analyst firm, and they invited me to go along and present at it. And the other event was Build, Microsoft Build, which happened just a couple of weeks ago, and we made some big announcements there. So we'll come back and talk about that later. But let's start with the Gartner thing. So Gartner do this every year. Well, they have done it every year. The last couple of ones were virtual, but it's a data and analytics summit. So they have speakers from all around the industry. They have vendors from all around the industry, and you know, Gartner do their own presentations about the key trends they see. It's a really great event, and one of the things that is kind of a big draw, I think, for it is that they invite vendors to do a bake-off. Now, obviously, as a Brit, I think of it as a bake-off. As an American, most people over here think about it as the baking show, but it's definitely the bake-off. And the way they sort of position this is that, hey, this is an opportunity for them to get some of the key players in the BI world together on a stage doing demos live, kind of head-to-head against each other. It's like it's really good fun. It's quite high stress and kind of high stakes, but it's good fun.
Do they give you the same challenge? Because if you're thinking of a traditional Bake Off, kind of like MasterChef or all of the cooking shows, which I love, by the way,
Yeah.
do they give you the same challenge to say, hey, we've got a theme and you have to make, I don't know, a wedding cake, for example? Is that what they do?
Yeah, that's exactly how they do it. They have different rounds, different challenges, and they give us the data set ahead of time, which is what I was thinking in February. They gave us access to the data, or pointed us to the data back earlier in the year. And this year, the topic was the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. So in previous years, we've looked at things like COVID, obviously last year. We've looked at things like the opioid crisis in the US. We've looked at car fatalities. It's usually not a particularly inspiring subject, but it is something that's very much kind of public interest, and it's public data as well. They're very keen on kind of going down the data for good route and helping people think about how can we go and solve some of these global problems using data, and what insights can we find that might help propose some solutions. So like I said, this year was all about sustainable development.
Okay, and so sustainable development as in factories, or is it just, it didn't matter?
Oh, it's a whole range of different areas. So the UN sustainability goals, they cover something like 14 different topic areas, from poverty to malnourishment to economic improvement to environmental sustainability, like water ecology and the environment in general, and even things like social justice and kind of equality in the workplace. So there's a whole bunch of different areas that they focus on. And really, Gartner said, hey, have at it. You've got this.
Have at it.
Go find some interesting things to talk about. And that's a big task to just go find some interesting stories.
Yeah.
But one of the areas that I focused on was kind of CO2 emissions and energy usage, renewable energy and clean energy sources. It's an area that's kind of interesting to me, and it's also very interesting to Microsoft as a company. This is going to sound a bit like a pitch from a Microsoft point of view, but we do a lot of work around sustainability in terms of environmental sustainability. I don't know if you've heard, Kelly, about. Go on.
Even in our cafeteria, right? And all of our everything that we eat and we drink from, all of our utensils, plates, cups, everything's compostable. I think we're almost zero.
Exactly. The new campus development has got some crazy geothermal plant that means that we're not going to actually pull any energy off the grid. We're going to be providing energy back to the grid. It's like, it's a big thing for Microsoft, as for most large organizations trying to get to carbon zero or even carbon positive. And so, this was an area that I thought we could go and look into. Found some data, and of course then Gartner give us kind of a script of what they want to see demoed as well. So in the same way that, as you say, the Bake Off is like, here's the ingredients, but here's what we want you to make as well. So they kind of give us, we want to see the look and feel of the product overall. We want to see about how you do data prep. We want to see how you do data sharing. And they also ask us to show kind of an exciting, innovative look into the future. You can kind of show stuff that's prototypes or not released yet, all these things. So and these sections are really short. So these sections are like 3-minute demos. 4-minute demos. It's like really quick fire, and they pull the plug at the end of the 3 minutes. She rings a little triangle saying ding 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 ding, your time's up, just like Bake Off. So you have to go stop cooking. Which is again, it's like makes for a really good show, really really good fun.
Well, show us what did you present? Are you allowed to? Are you allowed to show us?
That's the best thing about it, because it's public data. They're like, of course, go ahead, reuse it and share it. So I'm actually writing up a blog post. And we've recorded a little webinar. I will put that out in a couple of weeks. That's going to explain more about it. But I wanted to give you just a flavor. So I'm just going to show you one of the demos that I did.
Okay. And I'm sure you're going to post that in the Data Stories Gallery on
community. It's already in the Data Stories Gallery.
It's already in the Data Stories Gallery.
It's there. So you can go and take this. You can go download the PBIX file. You can see in there how we built it, where we got the data from, all that cool stuff.
That's fantastic. So you heard it here first. We've got an awesome, fantastic Will Thompson and Power BI team Gartner Bake Off. Where do you get a prize for first, second place, all that sort of stuff?
Oh, so in between each of the rounds, we do an audience vote. They don't let us. It's like what happens in the Bake Off stays in the Bake Off. They don't let us share the results, but we were very happy with it. But what they do, what Rita, the analyst from Gartner, what she does is she makes scones, and she leaves scones on everybody's desk as we're presenting. And if we bend the rules or show anything that we're not supposed to show, then she takes scones away. So one of the things that I showed that you can see here, this map in the middle is using the shape map visual, which is technically in preview. So she took us gone away for that.
Oh
It's good my
no.
waistline. I don't care because it's such a great map. It's like a really, really great way of visualizing this this information. So yeah, let me jump into the demo and we'll run through this in just a few minutes. So one of the key things that we found was that the way that access to electricity has improved around the world over the last 20 years. You know, at a global level, we can look at this, plot this on a map, and we can see here, we're looking at the percentage of a population who has reliable access to electricity. And the UN defined that as something like 4 hours of reliable access to electricity a day for heating, lighting, and to charge a mobile phone, which I think is brilliant that they include that in requirements for access to electricity. So the lightest blue here are less than 20%. The darkest blue, over 80% of the population have that reliable power source. If we focus on just Africa and Asia, you can see that there are some areas where there's still a challenge. Back in 2000, big parts of sub-Saharan Africa, parts around the Indian subcontinent, that access to electricity was not particularly prevalent. And in the first 5-10 years of the 2000s, things started to improve pretty slowly, but overall, that number was pretty steady. What we're looking at the bottom here is the number of people globally who don't have reliable access to electricity. But something really interesting happened here in 2011. There's this big jump in this number. What could possibly have caused that many people to suddenly find themselves without access to electricity? Now, rather than slicing and dicing myself, I thought I'd get Power BI to help explain that increase. And sure enough, it goes and does its thing, churns through the data, and it finds, yeah, that 8% increase, predominantly, that all came from one place. It turns out India had some major problems with their coal supply, which is how they generate most of their electricity, and some major windstorm problems that knocked out a lot of the infrastructure. That meant that 112 million people suddenly found themselves without that reliable power source in that year. Really interesting to see, and something that I wouldn't have been able to predict or find if I was just chunking through the data myself. But since 2011, there's been some really major improvements around the world here. In 2015, for the first time since it was discovered, less than 1 billion people didn't have access to electricity. I think it's really fantastic. And you look through to 2019, around sub-Saharan Africa, a lot of these countries are starting to get a lot darker. And around the Indian subcontinent in particular, we see some really major improvements. Let's just select a few of those countries just to focus on India and its neighbors. We can see exactly what I mean. Take Afghanistan, for example. Back in 2005, only 7% of the rural population had a reliable power source. By 2019, it was 97%. That is a massive improvement. But as we know, with great power comes great responsibility. And the other thing that I wanted to look at here was how, as access to electricity grows, what does that impact? What does that influence? Well, it turns out GDP grows along with it, but so do CO2 emissions. And we find ourselves in this situation, particularly if we start looking, the continents where access to electricity is highest or lowest. Let's see the places where it's lowest. Africa, on average, only 41%. They also have the lowest GDP per capita, but the lowest CO2 emissions. Conversely, the highest GDP per capita around Oceania, they also have the highest CO2 emission per capita. And if we look at this over time, it becomes really obvious what's happening here. As these countries start developing in the early start of the 2000s, CO2 emissions do start to creep up, but it's not until the GDP per capita hits kind of $15,000, $20,000 per head that CO2 emissions really start to jump up. And so we find ourselves where there's these two major problems around the world. One is that in many of the developing nations, they're held back from GDP growth and the like by poor access to electricity. Conversely, the more developed nations, let's look around Europe, where access to electricity has reached the whole population, CO2 emissions have gone up. And it's only the most richest countries, places like Ireland here or Sweden or around the rest of Scandinavia, where they've been able to get a hold on their CO2 emissions in recent years and start to bring that number back down. So that's what I showed, and I thought this was such a great way of visualizing some of this data and finding some of these interesting insights and telling a story with it, which, let's face it, at the end of the day is what we're trying to do with data with Power BI.
100%. I love those visuals, though. I love the play button. It's just fantastic. And so
Cool.
did you put that report together, or did you have some help? I'm just curious.
I had some help, yeah. I'm a graphic designer, and actually in the webinar that's coming up, you'll see some kind of before and after shots of what the charts looked like when I was doing it, and then what happened once our designer had got hold of it. So Miguel Myers, I don't know if you've had him on the show, but he's very popular in the community as well, and he has got a fantastic eye for making these reports look absolutely fantastic. And I can't do this Bake Off without him, because he helps so much. So yeah, big shout out to him.
He's absolutely the Michelangelo of Power BI. I mean, his work is exceptional. So I might just ping Miguel in the next couple of weeks and have him on the show.
Yeah, you should get him. Yeah, so he helped, the look and feel of it, the color scheme and everything, but finding the insights and actually kind of telling the story. A whole bunch of that I kind of just found by slicing through the data myself. Part of it I found through, there's a website called Our World in Data, who do a bunch of kind of analysis and on particularly things like sustainability and other kind of public interest data. They had a bunch of charts and data around COVID from last year. But they had a story about those kind of two problems that the world faces around kind of energy access and the impact of that. And that formed a bit of that kind of second part of the demo. But it's great to be able to kind of go and find those stories and reuse them and tell them in a different way in Power BI as well.
I love it.
I think that's what the data stories gallery could is a real opportunity for. Like, there's data that's people sharing out there. Go and look, reuse it, mash it up with other data, find new stories, find new ways of presenting that information. It's a really good opportunity there.
100%, and as long as you have permission to that data, go for it. Go for your life. The other thing I'd love to see on those charts is the education layer, and see the levels of education, whether they increase or decrease, or etc. And then
it's really interesting.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we found in another part of the demo that I'm going to cover in the webinar. So I'm plugging that a lot. Stay tuned to the blog. Stay tuned to the community, because it will be posting on the community webinar.
Where do you see the webinar? On community.powerbi.com. Go to the data stories gallery, and you can see Will's
the rest of the demo as well.
Awesome.
So the other thing that we found in the demo was using the key influencers visual. We could look at the correlation between some of those geodemographic kind of indicators. And actually, education levels I don't think I had, but we had like literacy rate. And there was a really high correlation at a global level between literacy rate and decreasing CO2 emissions. And then, like, if you look at particularly in developing nations, it was more around fertility rate and life expectancy, like just dealing with the basics, getting people's lives into a position where they can even remotely start thinking about their environmental impact was so important. So yeah, there's some interesting correlations in there. And again, that's another thing, that the data is freely available. It's public data. Go and have a look through it and see what insights you can find.
Yeah, and I think what we should do as well, and thank you for that. I mean, that was just brilliant. I think what we should do is maybe do a show to show people how to access some of those public data sources. I think it's really important. Often I go searching and I'm like, yeah, well, can I? And and sometimes I'm kind of not sure. So yeah, I might do something like that, because what you've created, what the team has created, is fantastic. And thank you, Miguel Myers, as usual. So what's up next, Will? What's up next?
So that was one big event, and that was good fun.
Yeah.
And it was in London as well, so I got to go home and see my family, which was quite nice. But the other event that we've been that happened recently,
we didn't hear that. We didn't quite hear that. Go on, say that again.
Okay, so the other great thing was it was in London. So I don't live in London. I've got a British accent, obviously, but for those of you who don't know, I live in outside Seattle, so I'm over in the product team over here. But it gave me an opportunity to go to London and present there and go and see my friends and my family. And that was good.
It's actually good that you're here, because everybody says, oh, you sound like Will. You sound English.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's not very often, but occasionally people say, hey, are you Australian? And like, no, my accent should be, I don't know. Amanda says I don't sound posh enough to be British. Anyway.
I have to agree with you.
So Gartner was one event. The other one was Build. And Microsoft Build happened a couple of weeks ago. And this is the premier kind of developer conference that Microsoft run this time of year. And it's an opportunity for all of the different product teams to talk about their plans. And Power BI is no different. There was a great session that Arun and Amir presented, talking about where we're going and kind of what the intelligent data platform is really bringing. And we dove into a few areas, and there are some new capabilities that we launched and we announced there that are really changing the way that people think about what Power BI can do. And coinciding with it, we also did the April release of Power BI. May release of Power BI. What month are we on now? Gosh,
we're in June, but it was the May release.
We're now in June, right? So we also did the monthly release, which had some great new features in it, and I thought it would be worth kind of doing a bit of a roundup of some of those.
Well, I am dying for Sujatha to come onto the show and show us that feature. I'm not going to say what it is, but one of my favorites is the data marts.
Yeah. Data marts is kind of one of the biggest ones. I think it's kind of the key announcement that we made. And so if you haven't seen the announcements, data marts is really us saying, how can we help folks who aren't SQL developers, who aren't database experts, get going quickly building data marts that can pull data together, give you very quick you don't need to worry about the infrastructure. Very quickly kind of put that data into somewhere that's nicely managed and kind of reliably managed as a software as a service product, say it's Power BI, but then build automatically all of the Power BI layers on top of it so that you can just start finding insights, start doing your analytics on that data straight away. And like I said, it's very low code, very no code kind of environment. And so, a lot of people have been saying, well, that sounds a bit like data flows, which is a feature we've had around for a little while. And it is kind of similar, but it's data flows with a bunch of other stuff as well. It can be used. You use the same kind of experience for connecting to data and pulling it together from different sources, uses Power Query Online. So it's very easy in terms of drag and drop, that kind of environment. It's very GUI driven. You don't have to write T-SQL, you don't have to be writing a load of code. But then on top of it, you get all of that kind of the BI stuff automatically. It's not just tables of data. You get a semantic layer on top of it. You get the data model that you know and love from Power BI on top of it. And you can, if you do have any T-SQL capability, expertise, you can write T-SQL directly against it. So it really is a database with that data model on top of it that you manage together.
Wow. I just want to pick up my mic and drop it.
Yeah. Well, the real mic drop moment is that you do all of this stuff in a web browser. Everything is done through the browser. So connecting to your data, uploading files, connecting to databases, all of the data preparation and data mashup, that's all done in the web browser. Great. But also the data modeling piece is done in the web browser. And that's totally new for us, that you can now create relationships, you can write DAX calculations, create measures, create all that semantics on top of it. You do it all through a web browser. You don't need Power BI Desktop anymore.
I feel like we're going back to the beginning because, we started off like that. We didn't have a desktop application. When I first started, we were developing, in the service.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then when the app came out, we're like, oh, this is great. Now we're like, okay, we're going back. And it's kind of like in our computer industry, same thing. When I was programming, kind of had the terminals and the mainframes, and now we're, we went to PC, and now we're all in the cloud. So I feel like, it's the right place to be. It's the right direction we're going.
Right. Yeah. And it's really, like I said earlier, this is a first step on a long journey that we're going down with Power BI about bringing more of those capabilities to the web. What's there in data marts today, it's not complete parity of what's in Power BI Desktop, but it will be. This is just a preview at the moment that's there. We're going to be adding more and more of that capability. And we want to bring more and more of this kind of world of databases and Power BI together, the data platform and Power BI together. And that's kind of where we're heading with that. I think we've talked before about kind of some of the changes that's happened from an organizational point of view. Arun Ulak, he's got responsibility for a lot more than just Power BI now. And that's a good indication of kind of where we're going to.
And Kim Manus now owns the Power BI product, right?
Right. Yeah. So Kim owns the whole of Power BI, also Synapse.
And Synapse,
platform. And that's kind of the place where we're like, okay, hey, these two things. There's a synergy together there, and it's an opportunity for us to put together. So yeah, it's really cool.
I think we've got like the data marts thing, and then what else was there? I mean, that was and I shouldn't have just jumped in and kind of.
No, that's fine. That's great. Yeah. So for me, I think there's two other things that really stand out with this set of announcements. One you already kind of mentioned, it's your Sujatha's feature called Fields Parameters. Now, this is a really cool thing that's going to change the way that people build reports, I think. One of the things that we've heard feedback from the community for a long time And we love the community feedback. Ideas.powerbi.com is such a great place. Go chuck your suggestions in there, vote on what's in there. We do look at it all the time. We've got a ton of PMs on the team who live and die by that stuff. We really do pay attention to it. We're at a point where the stuff at the top.
The Australian translation for chuck means throw. So
yes,
chuck your,
sorry.
Yeah, so,
I should probably not be on it. Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
John.
put all your ideas on there.
Put all your ideas in there. Throw them all in there. Okay, go on.
But the most important thing is that, I think if you go and look at that list, the stuff that's at the top there, it's stuff we're actively working on. I forget how many, but of the top 10 or 20, we're working on a whole bunch of them. And some of them are really big ticket items, so it's taking us some time. They're not going to get fixed overnight, but take a look, go make those suggestions. And one of the ones that was up there was that people wanted to be able to kind of provide a more dynamic way of changing the structure of charts for their end users to go and interact with them, not as a report creator, report developer, but as an end user. I just want to be able to quickly say, hey, I don't want to look at sales by product, I want to look at sales by region, or I want to look at sales by manager, or whatever it would be. And so this fields parameters feature gives us a way of doing just that. So I have a little demo. I can show you very quickly. I'm sure if you have Sujata on, she'll come on and show you in a bit more detail as well. But I've got a report here where we're looking at video game sales. This is some data from a few years ago, actually, that we used in another event. But what we have on this chart here in the middle, we're looking at the moment, we're looking at the critic score. So what's the average score by year by the different companies who publish these games? And if I wanted to change and say, rather than looking at company, maybe I want to look at the platform or the type of the game. As an analyst, what I'd have to do is go and take my type field and drag it onto the legend instead, and it will swap over to show me the different type of games. But this is fine if I'm working in Power BI Desktop, if I'm the report creator. But as the report consumer, I need an easier way of doing that. I don't have access to the field list, so I can't drag and drop and add things in and out. It would be great if we could do that with a one-click experience for those end users. And what we've done with fields parameters is let you hook up slicers like this and bind them to what's being shown on the legend or the measure or any other kind of component of the visual. So for example, here, I've got this legend item. I'm going to go and swap this out so that my legend item field, company type or genre, is going to drive what's in the legend here. So how do I create this parameter? Well, up on my modeling tab, I have a new parameter option, and you'll see fields is now an option here instead of just numeric range, what we had before. So I say, okay, I'm going to create this new parameter, and I'm going to call it my legend item, and then I'm going to go and add the fields that I want in here. So company is one of them. I'm going to put genre in here as well. What was the other one type we had? So I just say, what are the ones that we want to allow people to select from? It can get it to add a slicer to my page automatically, and then I go create that. I've already done that, so I'm just going to skip that step. And what it'll do is put this legend item here into the fields list. So now I take that, bind that into the visual, into the legend in this case, and then I have this slicer that's also connected to that. So now what I select in the slicer gets put into the legend of that visual. So swap it over to type, and now I'm looking at type. Swap it over to genre. Now I'm looking at genre. I've already done this for measures, right? So I can swap between critic score or global sales or Japanese sales or North America sales. Go back to looking at the legend items. So I can select whatever combination of these things that I want to see just by changing the values in the slicer. Then if you think about this like as an end user, when I've got this published up to the web and I'm just interacting with the report on its own, I don't see the fields list or anything, so I don't get distracted by all of that stuff. I just select the items that I need to have access to, and I see it straight in my chart. It's really, really simple, to set up, and uber simple for the end users to use to understand and do their own slice and dice and analysis.
Okay, this is amazing. This is just so amazing. This is so amazing. People are going to love it so much.
I feel like, I don't know, a few years ago, I was kind of toying with this idea of like, is this something we could build, and how could we go and do this? And it's taken a little while for us to get there. But man, this is going to change the way it's. I think we're all kind of saying it's going to be as revolutionary as bookmarks. Bookmarks totally changed the way that people design Power BI reports, and it completely changed the way that people thought about the information they could present and how they could tell stories and how they could, introduce some interactive elements to the reports. And this is going to do the same thing. It's just going to revolutionize things.
I love it. I love it so much. I remember when bookmarks first came out, and there were a lot of clicks, and they evolved it kind of the next year. And Chris from the Cat team was showing me how to do that, and it was fantastic. It was just good.
Yeah. Chris Hamill, man,
Yeah.
he's another guy who has had a he has got a fantastic touch for designing reports. Not so much the graphic design, but the interactivity and kind of the way that you can use it to do analysis and to find insights, and his use of bookmarks is phenomenal, and he's going to make some fantastic use of this feature, I'm sure of it.
100%. I love it. I love it.
And it's another feature that we want your help with from the community. I want to see what you can do with it, and this is a great opportunity to again post your Power BI files up to the data stories gallery, share what you've created. Let us know how you're using it. I'm really excited to see what you can do with it.
You know, now that you've said that, let's throw the challenge out there. If anybody wants to show us how you use, excuse me, the new field parameters features, why don't we give, say, for the first 10 people to put something up in the data stories gallery, we'll give them a special prize. We can't sort of figure that out now, but we'll give them some sort of incentive, something with a Power BI icon on it.
Yeah, exactly. Something iconic.
Yeah. Let's do that. Show us how you use your field parameters. Yay!
Yeah, exactly.
Go to community.powerbi.com, upload them in the data stories gallery. Yay! Okay, so what is that all? Do you have more to show us at all?
I think, that there is a whole host of things that got announced. Go take a look at the blog post. Go take a look at the videos that are out there. But the other one that really stood out for me, and it's a bit of an unusual one compared to kind of field parameters, is the migration from Azure Analysis Services to Power BI Premium. We announced some automated tools to help do that migration. So if you're still using Azure Analysis Services, Power BI Premium has grown so much over the last 4 years since we launched it. It's a superset of what you can do in Azure Analysis Services now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's so much more capability in there, both in terms of managing it, in terms of scalability, in terms of kind of the way that it integrates with the rest of Power BI. It's definitely the place to be. But we know that people struggle to migrate, because if you've got some mission critical capabilities on there and you want to move them, you want to make sure it goes smoothly. Yeah. And so we've been working on this kind of tooling to help do that migration. And it's really worth checking out if you're still trying to get over to Power BI Premium.
Yeah, I love it. And now with Premium per user, it's even, it's so much more accessible for everybody. It's easy to use. It's easy to use, easy to share. So, go ahead and check it out. I love that feature because it is hard. People don't realize what a migration means. It's super tough, super complex. 90% of it is the planning. If you don't plan it right, one thing goes wrong, stuff doesn't get migrated over. It's not a pretty picture. So this is a great tool especially for admins, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's, really good. And Christian Wade and Zoe Douglas and the rest of the team over there, they've done a fantastic job on that.
Mr. Clicky Draggy Droppy.
Clicky Draggy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's amazing. I love listening to Christian. I always learn from Christian every time I listen to any one of his presentations. There's just so much information. Same with Matthew Roche.
Yep.
Constantly just learning. Oh my goodness. Okay, so did you by chance, I wanted to just kind of say, we were talking about the data stories gallery. Did you by chance have a look at the Charticulator entries we've had? We had a Charticulator challenge a few weeks ago, and I think Layla Tati did kind of I think she uploaded like 3 videos to our webinar gallery to show people how to use it, because now it's gone from research into the product. And we have a Charticulator challenge, and we're getting a few entries. I think we had 12 or 16, and Natalie and Eileen will keep me honest here. I don't know how many we've had, but do a shout out if you know.
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity and a great challenge as well. But I've been really impressed with the entries that have come in so far. Charticulator is a really interesting tool for those of you who haven't come across it yet. It's really kind of a canvas within the Power BI canvas for designing visuals. So rather than just being constrained with the 20 or so charts that we do out of the box, or the custom visuals you can get from the store, you can, without writing any code, you can go and say, okay, I'm going to have these sets of boxes, and I want to bind these height, the width, or whatever, the position, to these bits of data. I can draw curves and things around lines. So we have lots of kind of radial charts that show things over time, or you can even drop like infographics in as well and kind of bind pictures into the charts and display them in different ways. So it's very flexible. There's a whole range of different kind of layouts and styles that you can end up with, and that flexibility means that people can produce some really interesting looking visuals. So Natalie says there's 16. Great. So there's 16.
There's 16. Oh, great. I think a couple of weeks ago there were only like 4 or 5, but I think people are going in and having a look at Layla's videos. I was just checking it out on the community now in the webinar gallery. Layla uploaded 3 Charticulator videos to show people how to use the different types of visuals, or how to create different types of visuals. I apologize. And so go check out those 3 videos and give it a try, and upload your Charticulator challenge on our data stories gallery, and we're giving away stuff for that as well. So it's a big giveaways day today, isn't it?
I realize I'm wearing my Lego shirt. I think Charticulator is more like Lego, right? Because it's about combining stuff with different building blocks.
Exactly.
How do I define this visual from a very building blocks up kind of approach, rather than taking the kind of finished products that you get with the ones in the visual gallery that are kind of built into the product.
Yeah, well, I love giving stuff away, and I'm a big Henry the Owl fan. I can see Henry behind you.
Everybody loves Henry.
I know. Maybe we should have you talked about Lego. Have you thought about Lego, Henry?
Yeah.
I remember.
This is an interesting one. So next week, I don't know, whatever week we're on when this actually goes out. I'm running a little kind of team building thing just internally with some of the teams in our role. And I don't want to give too much away because some of them might watch this show, but there is going to be a Lego challenge in there. And so what I designed a little Lego Henry. And I'm going to have a couple of spare sets after this event. Now, I think I'm going to have to give one to the people who win the event, but I'm going to have one spare that we could give away in the community.
Okay, absolutely. I'll take that. Not for me, for the community.
For the community, obviously. Definitely not for you. Okay. You'll probably see one on this shelf. I'm going to end up with 3. There's going to be one on this shelf because I'm keeping one. One's going to go to the winners and the other will go to the community. So they're very exclusive. There will not be very many of these around.
Well, these are exclusive Will Thompson Henry the Owl Lego sets, right?
Indeed.
Are you going to autograph it as well? You're going to sign it up with a marker?
Yeah, totally. I certainly
can. Okay.
Great idea.
Okay, we need a photo of you as well with the Lego Henry.
Once I've got the bricks, so the bricks are on order. Once I've got them, I'll tweet out a picture of it.
That'd be fantastic. Well, oh my gosh, we've got so many things to remind people of. So we've got go to the community and register. So go to Power BI show comment, register, and then comment on our episode, and we'll be picking some people to give stuff away. And I think we'll give away a sticker pack today for some of your exciting comments. And then we've got the Charticulator challenge. And then we've got the Henry the Owl coming up. So June 6th is the airing of this episode. And then there was another thing, Data Stories Gallery on the
Phil's parameters. We want you to get going on that.
Sujatha. So we'll have to get Sujatha on to do a demo of that and show people how to use it. Yeah, I mean, I know you did, but
I did a super quick overview of it, but she can dive into a bit more because there's more you can do. I showed just like one little use case.
Yeah, we'll do that. And so put all your stuff on the community, and we'll be picking randomly. I know it's it's prizes, it's just giveaways, and we'll be randomly selecting a bunch of people. So, Will, anything else you want to tell us about Power BI?
Wow, I think that's about it. I really appreciate everything the community does. I love engaging with you folks on community.powerbi.com and on Twitter and at events. I'm so happy to be getting back to doing in-person events because I really miss talking to people. That was the best thing about being at the Gartner thing was I spoke to, a couple of hundred people just over the course of a couple of days. It was brilliant.
Well, we have the Power Platform Community Summit coming up in September. And Daniel will keep me honest here because, he has all of the links, and I do this, and they just pop up.
Just a bit.
at the bottom of the screen, he does all his producer magic. So Daniel Zana, our producer, I'm sure we'll put a link in either in the video description below or when this airs under the screen. But yeah, this is
That Power Platform Summit is going to be good fun.
It'll be one of our biggest in-person events, right? Coming
up.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it'll be huge. I think I'm sure, I don't know who's going to be going yet, but I'm sure a bunch of folks on the Power BI team will be going as well. So hopefully we'll see you there.
Oh, that'd be great. Maybe we should have an autograph booth, photo booth, selfie with Will Thompson and Amanda Kovsky-Rivera now. So yeah, we should do that. Go check out the Power Platform Conference. It's powerplatformconf.com and the little link is there. Gosh, well, it's been a big show, a lot of announcements. Super excited about your Gartner demo and about the build announcements. I'm sorry about the Gartner taking your scones away, but hey, you've got to show all the features of Power BI. That's not your fault.
Exactly. I want to show off the stuff that looks coolest.
Exactly. Well, thanks so much, Will, for everything. We love working with you, love your work, love your time here. Super excited for the future, and hopefully you can come back and tell us about all of the new stuff that's coming out on Power BI as well.
Yeah, more than happy to. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And, with that, we're going to say goodbye. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Again, this is a pre-recorded show. Don't forget to go to aka.ms Power BI show comment. Put a comment in and we will absolutely be picking some people to give some nice Power BI things away. Again, thank you again for joining us, and we will meet you in the community. Goodbye for now. Okay, how was that?